Okay, hey everybody. Today I'm going to show you how to do conditional formatting and filtering in Microsoft Excel. I'm going to be using the free version of Microsoft Excel online, but you can do the same thing in the desktop Microsoft Excel app. All right, let's get started. So I have an example table here. Let's say that you get a report from a tool that you have that tells you the list of software installed on computers at your company. You have computer names, you have software names. Now let's say that you want to have conditional formatting highlight the row of the table based on software names. So I'm going to show you how you can set up that conditional formatting using multiple search terms. And we're going to put these search terms in a table. And we're going to make it so if you add a search term to the table, it'll automatically update the conditional formatting so that a new term will highlight everything that matches that term. So you see, once I enter this, Google Chrome now is highlighted. I'm going to delete this and it goes away. And let's say that you have Docs. So you want to highlight Docs like Google Docs, but you don't want to highlight Amazon Work Docs. I'll also show you how to use a list of exclusion terms to highlight only the search terms that you're looking for and not other words. Okay, so let me show you. This is the formula just to search for the search terms. Now, one thing I want to show you is that right here, the search list, this is actually a named list that I created, and it's referencing the table of this column of this table. So the way you do that, and I'll show you, you go equals table2 search terms. So now this is referencing this table. Okay, so if I move this and I add something like, move that down one more. If I add something like Zoom, right? That automatically gets added, and you see the reference, because it's referencing this whole table, and because you added something to the table, it's going to automatically add it to the reference. So you can see, in order to make a named list, you go to Formulas, Name Manager, and then you can go to New, but I already made it, so I'll show you what it looks like. So the search list, that's the name, refers to table2 search terms. So anytime you add a search term to the table, it'll also be updated on this search list. The reason we're doing that is because when we go to use these formulas in conditional formatting rules, conditional formatting in Excel does not like direct references to a table like this. It doesn't like that. It doesn't like this term in the formula. So the easy way to get around it is to make a named list, like I just showed you with the name manager, and then you can just reference the table and that will work. So what this is doing is it's saying, okay, we're looking at cell A2 and we're going to compare it against the search list, and I've appended the asterisk, which is a wildcard character in Excel. So we're appending it with the and symbol to the front and the back of each of the terms in the search list. So what that's telling Excel is match the search list terms even if there's different characters in front of and behind the search term. So it's basically just saying if the string docs appears anywhere in this cell, then count it. So I've copied this formula down the row for each cell in this column here. So you can see, for example, it counts docs because docs is in the search terms. It also counts Amazon work docs because docs is in the word work docs. So that's how you can do just looking for multiple terms. But if you want to ignore certain certain terms because you don't want, because let's say, you know, Google Docs is a very broad term, right, for a search term. So there might be, you know, names of software or something that you don't want highlighted. Then we have an exclusion list. And I've made this into a named list as well, referencing this table. And I called it exclusion list. This is search list. So this is the formula just to search the search list terms. Now I'm going to show you how to add the exclusion terms in. So this is the formula. It looks a little bit intimidating at first, but if we break it down, it's actually not that confusing. So you can see here, this highlighted section, this is the same thing that we just saw in the other formula. But instead of doing the search list, we're looking at the exclusion list. So we're trying to match the exclusion list to that cell A2. And then we're summing every time it finds one of the terms in the exclusion list, we're summing that all up. So if there were multiple terms found in here, then it would count both. So like if I change the word Zoom, okay, so if I do, if I have a name that has two of the search terms, like paint and docs, like this, then it'll count it twice. In order to get around that, we can use the exclusion terms. We put paint docs like this, it'll unhighlight it. So this is a pretty powerful technique here. But let's put this back to Zoom. We'll just delete this. Okay, so go back to the formula here. So the formula is saying, okay, look at the exclusion list. If it's a term in the exclusion list, count it and then sum the count. And then it's looking at, is it greater than 1? So did it find something in the exclusion list? This will return with true or false. And then we have an and function, so we're saying, okay, is this true? And then is the search for the search terms true? And then we're saying, okay, if these both are true, then return 0 because you found a match with your search term that was also in the exclusion term. And then if that's not true, then give us the sum of the countif of the search terms. So it's just going to give us what we were looking for as long as it didn't already match with an exclusion term. So I'll show you what that looks like in conditional formatting rules. Oops, I'm gonna go over here. Okay. So I told the conditional formatting to apply it to this whole, I told it to apply to this whole range. As you can see here. And I told it to go down as far as the spreadsheet would go. The reason I did that is so that if we add any terms or any names to this table, like let's say we're going to get a report for this every week, and this report might vary in length, we can just paste it into the table, and the conditional formatting rules will automatically highlight anything that gets added within this, basically this box of selected cells. And one thing I want to note is that in the formula, the reason we put a $sign in front of the A, which is referencing the column A, what that does is it tells Excel to only apply this formula in cell A2 and then go down only in column A through the entire conditional formatting selection. So basically this is telling Excel, hey, only look at column A and evaluate every string in column A for this formula. And we already discussed the formula. It's looking at the search terms and it's excluding our exclusion terms. So that's how you do conditional formatting in Excel, where you want to highlight an entire row based on matching a term in one cell. Okay, so let's say that on top of that, you want to automatically filter this table for just your search terms, and you want it to exclude your exclusion terms. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is the formula. It looks very scary, but I'm going to walk you through it. You're going to use a filter function, and I'm telling the filter, basically take this table, and it's called, in my example here, is called inst_software_table. And we're telling it, okay, only keep the rows that match this logic. So this is the logic part, and then it says if you don't find anything, just return no results. So now I'm going to walk you through the inclusion logic for the filter. So let's start with this chunk right here. And once we understand this chunk, we're going to understand the rest of the filter inclusion logic. So we'll start with search transpose right here. So what this is saying is we're transposing our exclusion list. So instead of being a column of terms, it turns into a row of terms. And I'll show you what that does. So take the search function, and we're just going to paste it here so you can see what this is doing. So what it's doing is, since we transposed the exclusion terms, each exclusion term is getting its own row where it's being evaluated against every row of this table. And its search returns a value error if it doesn't find the term. And if it finds the term, it returns a number, and that number represents the first character where it saw that term or that string within the string of the cell that's being evaluated. So this is saying that the 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth row of the table, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that matches the first exclusion term, which is Amazon Work Docs. So that makes sense because Amazon Work Docs matches the first exclusion term. So that's what this does. And then I'm wrapping that in the isNumber function. And the isNumber function is just going to evaluate the values that are being returned. And it's going to say, okay, is it a number or is it not? If it's a number, it will return true. And if it's not, it'll return false. What that's going to do is it's going to get rid of all of these value errors, and it's going to make them false. And the ones where it matches with a 1, it's going to return as true. So I'm just going to wrap this in that isNumber function so you can see. So that's what it does. It just changes it into true and false based on if it's a number or not. Now, after we do the isNumber, we're doing an if statement, and we're saying, okay, look at all of those values in this array, and if they're true, return the number 1, otherwise return 0. So I'm going to copy that so you can see. It just takes this, forgot my equal sign there, and it turns it into 0s and 1s. So the reason we do that is so that we can do this by row function. Now this is the one that's a little bit complicated, but by row works with looking at that if statement. So the if statement, again, it's outputting the array with 3 columns, and it's going to have 0s and 1s in it. We're saying, all right, go by the rows, and it works with this lambda function. And lambda, all it does is you give a name. You can do whatever name you want here. It doesn't matter. I used binary sum because for this, we're adding, in this case, a bunch of 0s and 1s. So we call it lambda binary sum, and then you call the name with a function. And then we're saying, okay, sum binary sum. So what that's telling the by row function is to go row by row in this array and sum those rows, and then return 1 column with the sum. So then you'll just get 1 column showing every time one of these exclusion terms matched a row in this table. So let me show you that. Okay, so basically what it's doing is it's just merging the output of those rows into one row. And then that's wrapped in an if statement right here. And so the if statement is saying, okay, this array that we got from the by row function of summing the exclusion terms together, if that equals the by row array of the search list right here, this chunk is the same thing, but it's looking at the search list instead of the exclusion list. Return with a 0. Otherwise, return with the value of the search list by row array. So basically it's saying, look, if you found an exclusion term and a search term, ignore it. Otherwise, just return us the value of the search for the search terms. And then it's just saying, if there's no findings, just return no results. And that's just so that you don't have an error pop up. You'll at least have something that says no results. So you enter that in and it will automatically filter out the table based on the names in your search terms and exclude your exclusion terms. So let's say I add a term in here like Firefox. And you can see Firefox was automatically highlighted and it was automatically added to our filter array. And if we delete that term, it automatically gets unhighlighted and it gets taken out of that array. So this is really useful if you have a report that you pull constantly from your tool or wherever you get this from, and you can just paste all of that information into your table, and you can use this function to automatically filter for the stuff that you want to see and automatically format and highlight the rows based on the terms that you want to search for. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, give me a like and subscribe for more informative videos. Thank you.